coffee break. Yeah, I'm going to shrink down the size of the text. I'm already kind of confined on one monitor. I tend to spread out. I believe acreage is important when you're coding. You know, see as much as you can. This would be more the normal size of text I use here, but I'm going to go ahead and kick it up a little bit so you guys aren't squinting absolutely crazily to see what's going on. Okay, so we're going to look for, what was that warning again? Let's go back. That warning was, oh, that's interesting. Wasn't supposed to go away. Ah, Windows is confusing me, which apparently is easy to do. Okay, so let's compile this. No errors. Let's take it back out. All right, that's the bug we actually want to fix, where things disappear. But adding one in,
it is dangerous to
the warning
remain
was
here.
item mnemonic not found in captions. So let's just search for finding files not found in caption. So our finding file result is over here. So this is the warning we're getting. And how did we get there? Substring of 2 mnemonic environment. Length of Unicode. Mnemonic caption. Mnemonic reduce escape sequences. Okay, so this is in the parser. Expected that. Why did that come back? Well, tell you what, let's start up the gorilla here. And I mean it affectionately. Visual Studio. Hang on. You want a password? Okay. We'll give you a password. There we go. Bring it in so other folks can see what's going on. And so we're in Zinc parser, I believe. See, there's another metal. Zinc is our parser. And we're going to find caption. New. I'm looking for found in caption. There it is. So let's do this. And I'm just going to stop there, set a breakpoint. Let's quit this one and run it. Now, I don't know what other breakpoints I've got set. Let's see what happens.
My God, it's full of stars.
Okay, so, oh, found the bug already. Went right to it. Okay, so what I did is I hit an arrow, and the continuous compilation Zinc files, and when you're working in menus and key map files, they're being compiled continuously in the background, partly for the syntax highlighting, but also just to do the work. Oftentimes, a compiler, at least here in Iron, can complete its work before you can even type the next character. And there's not a lot of work going on anyway. So apparently, the item caption. Let's just see what's going on here. Why are you not highlighting? This is rather odd. There we go. Here. Beta. So if the caption equals beta, the Unicode length of both item, I still can't. Where's this one being defined? Yeah, that's not right. That's more right. Let's do a local on that one. Maybe we can, that's why. Yeah, I use the word environ, and apparently C++ wants to use that as well for something else. So renamed, not found. I'm just guessing. Well, let's see what we've got. So environ here, what this is, it's a collection of bits and pieces that the compiler is using. So as a file is being compiled, it's creating a function call or a combo or a sequence or a modifier. And environment is passed around between this environment variables passed around between tasks, threads. And so partial information is being built up inside of this and it's being populated. So item, that's what we want to look at. So we got our mnemonic is K, beta is the caption, if the length and the length. Why am I even comparing those two? That's really a funny thing. Let's see if I've got any notes here. Why am I comparing those two? Let's go back to iron. Did it check that the mnemonic is present in the caption is greater than 0 if... Wait, are we in the same place? Menu item begin. Menu item begin. We are. What is it doing here? Boom, boom, boom. Check that the mnemonic is present in the caption. The caption equals the temp. The temp is a substring up to... Ah, okay. Item mnemonic not found in the caption, case sensitive. Maybe not the best warning. So here's here. This is okay. Now I'm feeling kind of stupid. That's just a normal thing most days. Debuggers and compilers tend to make you feel small at times. So let's continue this. So what it's saying is that this is the mnemonic, the quoted character, and it's saying, hey, I can't find it. I don't know what to underline when we get to underlining. So this is actually partially implemented. So what I want to do is just put a letter in there and let's compile it. There we go. No warnings or errors. Good question. Okay, we'll get that down and thank you. Thank you, Visual Studio. Coffee break. Let's see. Steven22, thanks for showing up. Live EDU, glad you're here too. Steven22R. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I understand it's kind of small. I'm trying to do it in the, most of the time we're going to be spending over here. Even, yeah, that's kind of live EDU support. I totally understand, and I'm going to try to keep it big. I always feel like I'm working with a crayon. I mean, a really big one, about 12 inches wide, and holding it with both hands trying to type. But yes, let me make it easier for folks here in Visual Studio, which we were just in. All right, let me see. How do I increase the font? I'm trying to remember. That's certainly not it. Bum, 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 bum. All right. I know there's something up here. There's 16 million toolbars. Control plus sign, that's what I've been doing. Control plus. And it's doing some weird, no, it's just not working. Let's try this plus sign. Nope. Okay, this is a good example of why sometimes working in a gargantuan IDE can become difficult. Or just not always the best option. Where would I find it manually? Do. Let's turn on the formatting. Maybe there's a, no. I'm sorry about this. Like I said, I've kind of moved on from Visual Studio, so all right. Hang on. Yeah, I would have thought Control Plus would do the trick too, but apparently it's not. Okay. Sorry, I'm working off screen for just a moment here. Okay, right. Options. It's kind of a long way. Come on, you can do it. Let's change our font size to 14. See how that works. It feels really big. Okay. Um, Let me cut it down. I know it's bigger, but it's, and that's kind of one of my complaints about Visual Studio, and I'm sure it's shared by other folks, is that, gosh, here on my screen, here's an inch and a half devoted to toolbars that I'm not using. I do kind of like the need my solution, watch windows and whatnot, and the call stack. It's it's just tight. So anyway, I'll leave it at it's just uh, we're gonna have to compromise. I'll go part way, but I can make it a little smaller just so it's actually usable by myself. Otherwise, this would be even a less a less entertaining stream than this. Okay, so when we come back, we'll do that. Let's see. And the Egyptian developer, welcome, and ID 32 big long number. Glad you're here too. Um, just to back up a little bit, I am John Dark Viking, and we're working on Iron, and this is Iron here. It's a text editor with 3D graphics built on top of video game engine technology, and that's my history. I used to work at LucasArts, the lead programmer there. Worked for Dark Horse Comics, worked on other things, flight systems, all kinds of good stuff. Um, and then where were we? Let me go back. So we're just chasing a simple bug. Actually, it was an error message that was, of course, user
Just a moment.
user error.
Just a
Okay,
moment.
so just to kind of
I've
back
just
up a
picked
tad
up a
bit, we're
fault
working on
in
the
the
menu system,
AV35
and
unit.
it's in its early
It's
stages.
going to go
And the bug we're
100%
chasing is
failure
when I
within
take out
72
a
hours.
single item, like beta here, you can see that the menu bar will momentarily disappear. Okay, so here we're going to compile it, and it disappears, and then it comes back. It's kind of like, wow, that's not good. It's hard to miss. I don't know how to kind of like, maybe people won't notice it, but I think they will. So put it back in. And then if I take out several, of course we get the same response. Pieces go flipping off. Okay. So anyway, I did take a look at it last night, and kind of got a good grip on what's going on and why this is happening. So what's going on is Iron has loaded the menu file, say in this condition here where it's got all the options. And what it does is when I compile, it's got a copy of the old menu, and then the new one it's just compiled. And if it's successful, what it does is it tries to reconcile the differences. So when we take out one item, Iron goes through and says, okay, what are the items that are going away? Toss them off in the air, blast them away. And so that's where we see edit, kind of flip off. Because it's saying, oh, this one is no longer present in the new menu. So let's toss that off. What's also going on is um, once the new menu becomes active, the old menu should in fact disappear. And that's what's happening. And that's what we're seeing is that the old menu is going away, but the new menu is not activating at the right time. And it's really only going on when I'm taking an item away. Um, and I'm telling you a fib actually. So when we're putting an item back in, it looks like it's operating correctly, but it's really not. um, what is really happening is that the new menu's location and its opacities have not been set correctly. So these items are kind of off in space, as well as they're not being rendered because the opacity hasn't been set. They do get set when you add an item, and but their location is, you can see it's kind of faded in. Let me give you an example here. So I'm going to get rid of a bunch of items. Okay. And now when we add new items, what's going to happen is the old menu is going to make space for the new items. And then they're supposed to fade in and turn upward. But if you look close, you can see right here, let me do it again, is, so I'm actually talking about a couple of different bugs. So watch right about here, and you'll see there is kind of like a bronze colored box. It's actually all of the menu items that are being added, being rendered in one place, and their opacity should actually be 0 at that time. They need to fade in and stretch out, and then tilt to be visible. Okay, so here, watch again, right about here. All right, you can see that little little blank gold thing right there, and then they all spread out. So the action is not quite right, and that's what I'm going to try to solve here. Kind of those two things. Is why when I take things away does the rest of the old menu, actually, why is the new menu not initializing correctly? That's what's actually going on. Okay, so that's where we're headed. Let's quit that for a second. Take a look at notes here. Friend of mine built a similar editor. Cool. Um, Post a link. I want to take a look. Are these editors same as Node editor? Is that the name of it? Node. No, it's not. This is our own invention. I've been working on it for a while. Um, and it's just about ready to be put out into we're about to put out a prototype so people can get their hands on it. Um, let's see. Let me go back to the agenda here. Not that it's a big one. And I guess the text is supposed to be bigger. Do the best I can here. Um, that was an unofficial coffee break. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about Iron's history and kind of where we're going with the 3D menu system. Initially, Iron had, the typical drop-down menus. Here's Sublime Text. You know, great tool, and it's fine. But when you look at kind of the modern rung, the modern bunch of editors, they all kind of have the same drop down, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. Similarity is good. If you're familiar with your operating system, things that work in one tool, function and operate the same and look the same. It's like, that's great. Visual Studio, same kind of thing is, they all have similar look and feel. They're very, very 2D, very flat, very, um, hate to say it, not as a bad thing, very consistent. Um, and frankly, I feel like Joe versus the volcano, where it's like the fluorescent lights are sucking the life out of me, and dead, dull dialogue, please kill me with yet another dialogue. So trying to take a different tact. And so anyway, Iron started out with a drop-down menu. using Windows, the Windows menu system, and that worked fine. And we had little icons, and things kind of worked out. And it was like, wow, it just really kind of destroys the whole look and feel of what we're aiming for. A consistent environment, smooth, fades and fades out. We want a more engaging environment, something that just isn't harsh and flat, because you and I as programmers are staring at this screen for certainly 8 hours a day, but it might be 100 hours a week. And like Joe and Joe versus the volcano, it sucks the life out of you. So we're trying to address programmer fatigue is one of our hopes, and having being able to increase font size when you get tired, that's a real plus, or when you're streaming. Um, Put a lot of effort into, and it's hard to see, the clear type, clear type font systems. So when things do get extremely tiny, they're still readable. And I'm certain that is not readable for you. In fact, I can still read that. And if I look close, only because I know what it says can I read that. But we put a lot of effort into ideals around programmer proficiency and performance, so you can keep going longer. And that's why we added in little bits of humor, and we're hoping to have more down the road. And um, fatigue is a real factor. If you're tired in programming, you're doing kind of what I've done. I've inserted a puzzle, a bug, a defect, um, and I'm having to chase that. And I probably did it as a result of being tired and working too many hours. So anything that can kind of keep you going and keep you up, that's legal. We want to try to incorporate some of those things into Iron. And our 3D menu system is that we're not trying to annoy people with too much animation when you're working. You can see that the snowblower when you delete text. For some reason, I can't live without it now. For others, I'm sure it'll be like, oh, that's really crazy annoying. I was going to use an expletive, but I'm not. And it's kind of like, well, you have to decide what's entertaining for you and what's annoying, and that's important for people in their work environment to be able to adjust things. If you can turn off the fan or make the knocking in the next room stop, or if you can, you got just the best keyboard in the world, whatever it takes to keep you going. So for me, there's, just having animation, life, color, sound. I've got audio here in Iron. So it tells me with HAL 9000's voice that, it's got to be due to human error. Anything that I have problems with, and it makes me snicker, makes me laugh. And programming, another one of our mottos is programming should be fun. So so it's kind of like, why are we adding? Well, there's just another bug right there. That's funny. Okay, well, let's make another note. Okay, switching from horizontal to vertical menu, the item sizes are not recalculated. Oh, that's funny. That's more what it should look like. All right. I didn't see when it switched. Yeah, that's just not right. That's funny. So if I tab away and come back, sure enough. Okay, well, let's make a note. Lovely. More puzzles. And close that. So that's part of, you saw that the screen kind of zoom back and turn into a sphere, and it's kind of like, okay, you're not going to find that in too many other text editors. Certainly not in, this guy. Um, and I don't know, just a slight bit of entertainment can all be turned off if that's annoying for folks. Let's see. Let's quit that. Oops. Come back to our side. Um, come back to our side. Come back to the light. Don't go to the dark side. Okay, let's have an official coffee break here. Everybody brought coffee, right? I can tell in my rambling mode here, I may not actually solve this bug while streaming. But let me carry on. Okay, let me carry on. So some of the history of Iron is what I was talking about was drop-down menus are kind of dull and boring, and Iron had um, this same kind of drop-down, things that expand outward to the right or to the left in some strain mix. And what it did is it really took um, the user, me, out of it's kind of like, oh, that just interrupted. It's like getting a phone call in the middle of a movie in the theater. It's kind of like, wow, you really kind of destroyed um, my frame of mind. And as you know, as programmers, it takes time to get the frame of mind to dig in deep. It can be 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes to get your mental picture and placing everything where it should be in your mind and solving a problem. And if a menu, and kind of guilty of that here, comes up that is like out of the theme, let's try command here, and I'm gonna force a menu to come up, and the example is here. It's kind of like, ah, crap. Well, that doesn't have the nice, steampunk theme we're kind of going for initially, and wow, it's white, it's bright. In the middle of the night, it's kind of like, well, that's jarring. And it's like, well, we don't really we want to keep a consistent work environment. um, so you as a programmer, me as a programmer, we can continue and not have those slight interruptions, because you never know what's going to, your mental picture, what's going to blow it away. Certainly phone calls, tweets, and all that stuff tends to do that. And then dialogues and interruptions and focus stealing is probably one of my most hated right now. I don't want to get too whiny. So anyway, we kind of took Iron down the road using typical drop-down operating system menus. And after long discussion, it was kind of like, well, do we want to use the operating system UI widgets? And there's kind of two answers, yes or no. And there's different reasons why you would and why you wouldn't. Some of the reasons why you would is it's just the operating system and tools are consistent. You want things to, transition to and from, and not have to, again, kind of switch up your mental state. Um, and then the other camp is it's like, well, you kind of take widgets, and when you're, for us, we want to keep the theme going, the feel, like a video game. You don't want to get tossed out to the operating system, and so commonality um, doesn't kind of gets trumped by that. You don't really want to get tossed out. So and with our 3D engine and all the stuff that's going on inside of Iron, um, you know, staying in the zone and not getting pushed out. We want to carry our widgets and be consistent in our theme and our presentation. Even the title bar here, it's kind of like, we'll live with it for now. So we decided after talking about it is that no, we're going to kind of abandon the operating system. We're trying to do new thinking when it comes to key mappings, 3D menus, soft fading, adding steampunk. We've kind of eliminated things like, for now anyway, slider bars. It's just like, well, they're tiny and difficult to click on when you try to do that. And we're trying to do things in the large, as I understand is a good thing to do, especially with your font size. Here's a little trick. You can do selections in our little mini map here, but it acts as a scroll bar. Yeah, don't need a scroll bar if you can just drag the mouse out to the left and right. So it's alliteration that's not necessarily needed. So we're trying to incorporate new thinking and go ahead, trying to stay familiar, yet trying to gain new advantages if we can come up with, anything that's just slightly better. Um, so after this menu system, I went and created a 2D menu system that, functioned very much like typical drop-down menus. Um, and it was kind of like, yeah, that's cool. And I made a language, a little grammar in a language that it made it easy to create and add new things, kind of like what's going on right now. And the newest one is being able to um, create menus, adjust them, tweak them is really important, especially when it comes to the general public. We want folks like yourselves to um, be able to tailor the work environment, whether it's our tool or somebody else's tool, get it to fit like a glove and become the most proficient you can. It's like adjusting the seat in your car so you can reach the pedals. Um, or more importantly, the stereo, whatever it takes, so to be able to change and adjust, the key map files in the menu system for our users is important. Um, and so coming up with a grammar of our own and a format that's easy to um, for the general public to use and make up whole new menus and sub menus. And this is a case of a sub menu that's
It is
not
dangerous to
implemented.
remain
There's
here.
our warning.
You must leave within 2 days.
So, we just needed to make it accessible, and that brings up, coming up with our own file formats, and there's a grammar underneath a little language, and this is actually just kind of a snippet of a much larger language called Copper. That's a long time from being available for folks, but we're borrowing from that. And which I should just mention, bit of a note is that this language you probably won't recognize. This is one I wrote about 15 years ago, or started anyway. I haven't done a lot with it other than using it since then. It's called slang. It does a lot of work for me that other languages don't. So anyway, accessibility is really important. The um, key map file. I've shown this in others. So if you want to change your mappings, they're right here. They will take some explanation. There will be, documentation available, but you can see move to the next file, the previous file, open a new one, rename. That's kind of our save as, um, things like that. So we just want to make sure that things are accessible for folks and easy. And that necessitated then um, making a grammar. And the grammar I used at that time was slang. My computer language handles all of my I/O. So I did, I'm going to go on a bit of a tangent here um, and see if I can find an example of slangs. Let's close that off. So here's a good one. Iron pane types. This is a biggie. And I'm going to shrink the font size down for a second here. This is deals with panes and pane types, and we've got views and we've got record structures and lists of things and arrays of things and things that point to other things. It continues on and on and on. So there's just data structures that are huge, and when it comes to slang, I just tell slang to, hey, write out this list. I haven't written a whit of IO code in, I don't know, 15 years. And part of what Iron will do, or slang does is it Here's a AA link list, some strings, pointers, and you can have, it's not just acyclic graphs, it's cyclic graphs and shared items and a lot of stuff. So anyway, it writes that out in a binary format or in a text format. And I was kind of like, oh, cool, I'll just use the text format. And man, that just proved to be an absolute pain in the ass because these data structures are sizable. Scrolling error here. Let's go to iron. Now, what is it? Zinc file types? Maybe it's just Zinc types. Our command palette isn't very well fleshed out. Yeah, so here again we got more data structures. And so where's some of the menu ones? The menus and menu items, they tend to, quickly grow in the number of things that it might reference. Now, we're here at the beginning, so we really just have, expressions that get evaluated to decide whether this item is active or not. So anyway, the data structures get huge. So when you start using the text format of the data that's saved, there is just a boatload of tiny little things that, nobody in their right mind could ever type that in by hand. And that's kind of one of those things when, XML came out, I was not a big fan because it's like, oh, okay, that's great text. And I got to, basically got to type myself to death. And, at that time when XML came out, it didn't have any kind of tools or highlighting or syntaxing. There's nothing that could kind of help you to like populate stuff. And so it's fine for inspecting, data structures and data content. It's kind of like you can go in and look at stuff, but to actually create new data in that way using a text format that's got the nth degree of detail in it, you just can't do it yourself. And so when I opted to use Slang's text-based, data content, it was, that format was completely unworkable. It just didn't work at all. So that was another rendition that was kind of like a second rendition of a menu system for Iron. And it was it was 2D. It didn't really have a whole lot, and it was just extremely difficult to work with. And the importance of accessibility didn't dawn on me, so I made a third version, but made the same mistake in using Iron's text format. And I wish I could find one. Let me see if I got an old one somewhere, and you can see how just kind of arduous it is. Do I have old stuff somewhere? Oh, not here. Maybe down here. Yeah, this might have it. Let's hunt around a little bit. I realize I'm not doing a lot of coding and a lot of jabbering. I appreciate your patience in that. And hopefully it's kind of interesting. Speaking of which, official coffee break. Okay, so hopefully everybody brought coffee. ADYDA. I'm not even going to try to pronounce it because I know I'm going to do it wrong. That's one of the problems of being an American with only one known spoken language. Well, I know a little Norwegian, but it doesn't really help. But I murder names and words, and so it's best I not even try at times. Okay, so taking a look, I was going to look at, let's see, is it in resources? Autosave? No, might be. Hang on. Iron texture, iron menus. Was there a menus? There we go. Ah, this is the one I'm looking for. So we're going to select a program. Oh, I haven't looked at one of these in ages. So let's set that up for iron. Okay, excuse me. So this was making a menu system before. And if you kind of go through, you can see there's some huge amount of detail going on. I think it even gets worse. It start doing adjustments on placements. Okay, so it just goes on and on and on and on and on and on. And this was basically the format that Slang would generate. Let me zoom out here. Whoops, too far. and to type things at this detail level and make adjustments, with any kind of speed or fidelity was difficult. This is not even the worst of them. It's things like this. Menu item, root:5 code 1, root:5 9 semicolon for the number of items in the list that follow down below. It's kind of like nobody in their right mind could get this right. I made this stuff up, or my compiler, kicks this out. The language itself kicks this out. It's kind of like, no, I can't replicate this crap. It was fine for me. Okay. That's not even the best example. There's newer ones. Oh, the toolbar. Let's go to the toolbar. Similar deal. And this was actually the third rendition. And I wish I had screen captures of the old stuff so I could show you, because the third menu system in for Iron was actually pretty cool. But in the end, it was an experiment that failed, and I'll see if I can describe why that was. Let me just see, hunt around here. It's a toolbar. Toolbars. Here we go. You can see we had some icons, which were pretty cool, and we haven't gotten Iron kind of back up to par with that just yet. Okay, so yeah, here's the detail and crap that it's going. Oh my God, here's the common, the justification and sizes and widths and positions, and they get kind of detailed. Here's some color stuff, and oh my God, this is just unusable. It's kind of XML like, JSON like, YAML like, and it's what Slang would generate in terms of text version of its binary file. Quick to use, to implement, I mean, but horrible to use, and certainly can unleash this kind of thing onto the public. Nobody in the right mind could tailor, tailor their menu system if that's the way it was. So we're
It is
hoping
dangerous to remain
something a
here.
little more,
You must leave
simpler
within
like
2
this.
days.
And things that auto size, and if you want to get to more control later on, you can. But this became ridiculous. And I wish I had a picture of the old menu system. You can see some of the icons. They're pretty cool. And one of the things why we decided to ditch this menu system as well. I wonder if I have any screen captures anywhere. No, go there. No. Well, hang on. Screenshots. Do we have one? Let's go to extra large. Let's see what we've got here. This looks really old now. Come on, good buddy, start up. With all this streaming and stuff going on, things have really slowed down on my machine. So let's see what we've got. That's a screenshot of a. Oh, this is really old Iron. This is almost laughable. Oh yeah, this is way old. Look at that frame rate. Okay, and you can see this is the first menu system that Iron had. Oh, I'm glad I found that. That's just it was terrible. Makes me chuckle. Let's see what else do we have. Let's just take a peek. Oh, this is some of the early docking system and the GL graphics I was working with. Yeah, I'd get frame rates like 3, and sometimes like 0.8. It was terrible. So this is like really old. Let's see if we got some. Nope. Kickstarter might have some images we can look at. Amazon, no, Amazon. That was long. Well, shoot, I wish I had some. Icons, buttons, and such. Speed comparisons. No, that doesn't have it. Anyway, let's see what old brass has. This might be the same thing. Yeah. Sorry, kind of gotten waylaid by a tangent. Shoot, I don't have any ready-made screenshots from the old stuff. Well, shoot, it's going to be hard to describe. Hang on, we might have some in here. Okay, yeah, you can see this was the first menu system, file pane, build, tools, setup, pretty typical stuff, and non-steampunked iron. Let's see what else we have here. Let's see if I can. I'm trying to find the third rendition. Nope. Where's the menu system? Does this have it? There it is. That's what we're looking for. All right. So this is the third rendition, the third menu system that we tried in Iron, and looks very cool, very steampunk. The icons worked. Drop down very similar like any other drop down, and things would fade in and fade out, and the text would colorize, and it was pretty well built up, and that actually became part of the problem. Is it was too built up. 2 seconds here. I'm going to restart our